Let's work on making this track in this football field some more. And you're going to find that this is an exercise in, basically this is all about using the trim command and all about using the offset command. Those are our two best friends as we work on this one. So I have open the PDF sheet here that gives us some sizes, and we've already laid out these outlines of the track. So let's look at the PDF. And we now want to start making this track itself. And looking around at all these dimensions, what we finally notice is this one right here, 28 feet wide. And it tells us that it's 28 feet wide all the way across the track. It doesn't tell us that it is down here, so we need to understand that it's just going to stay the same width all the way across and up and down and around. So this whole thing is 28 feet. That means that's what we're going to do for offsetting. So now let's come to our drawing and get our offset command. And we could use this button up here. And what does it say? Offset. Specify distance. All right. So that's what we need to do here. 28. Now if I just type 28, it'll think I mean inches. So I'm going to add a foot mark. 28 feet. Okie dokie. And I'm going to offset this top line. Side to offset. I'm still in the offset command, so I can select another object to offset. I'll select the bottom line, side to offset. I'm still in the offset command, so I'll select this circle, side to offset. I want to come towards the inside, and I'll do the other circle, side to offset, and I'll come towards the inside. Okay. And I'm done, so I can hit enter to exit. Notice that exit is what is inside the carets in the command line. So when I hit enter, that will exit me. Now I'd like to get things cleaned up a little bit because I'm already getting confused. So I'm going to trim around the outside of this thing. So I'm going to use not the offset command, but the trim command with a picture of the scissors. And if the scissors were not displaying, if you saw something else, you could click this down arrow, and you'll notice that trim and extend are both in this little drop-down menu. So we want the one that says trim. Okay. And what it wants you to do now is select the cutting edges. Select the cutters. What are you going to use as your chopping blades to chop off stuff? Now, if you just hit enter right now, every single line in this drawing will be a cutter, and that will be irritating. So watch this. If I hit enter and now I try to trim this one, oh, it's using that line and that line as a cutter, blah, blah, blah. I don't want that. I want to select what I'm going to use for the cutters. So I'm going to select, first I want to tell it to pick the cutting edges. And now I'm going to select that one. I'm selecting the outsides of the box, basically. Okay, I've told it cutting edges. I've selected the cutting edges. Now I can enter to accept. And now select objects to trim. Okay. Well, I could click one at a time, but if I use a right crossing window, I can gather up a bunch of them all at once. So I'm going to go click over here, drag my mouse, and click over here. Click over here, drag my mouse, and click over here. Right crossing window, click, click, click. Great. Okay, enter to accept. Now I would like to clean up these circles here, so I'll get a trim command again. I don't know about you, but I like to type things, so I'm going to type TR for trim. And again, if I just hit enter to select the cutting edges, I got to tell it cutting edges. If I just hit enter, I'll select all, and that'll be time consuming. So instead, I'm going to select the objects to use for cutters. I'm going to select this line, this vertical center line, and this vertical center line. And then once I've selected those, now I can cleanly go click, 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 and select those circles. Okay, now I'm going to trim again. Trim was the last command I had. So if I hit enter, it will bring up that last command. And depending on how you have your AutoCAD set, it might be set up, mine is set up a way I don't like. So yours might be set up so that when you come in, it wants you to select the cutting edges. That's what I like to do. Mine is set up just to default to start cutting right away. I'm going to hit enter so that I select all the cutting edges, so I'm right back where I started. And now I'm just going to look for, okay, where inside this track should I be clicking to clean up stuff inside my track? Look at that. Look at how clean that is. Okay. Now, what do I want to do? I think I want to clean up this ramp here. So I'm going to select the cutting edges, select objects to use for cutters, and I'm going to use this bottom edge of the on-ramp. You'll see why in just a minute. Okay, so I've selected my cutters, enter. Now I'm going to select the things I want to trim. Look at that, and I'm left with the nice ends of the track. Okay, and I want to clean up one other thing down here. This line down here is not where I want it. So I'm going to trim one more time and click that, and I'm going to erase this extra line that I accidentally wound up with. Okay, good deal. Now what have we got? Let's start making our football field. And looking at the PDF, what we notice is they give us a dimension from the centers of these circular arcs, that plus sign right there. They tell us it's 18 feet from the center of that arc out to the end of the football field. And it's going to be the same on each end. So we can do an offset of 18 feet to get started with our football field. I'm going to come over here, and you could click the offset command. I like to type O for offset. For some reason, I find that faster. Specify offset distance. Okay, 18, and I need to put the foot mark, 18 feet, and I'll go from the center of the circle out and select the object. So I was in the offset command. Let me back up. I want to do that right. So O for offset. Specify offset distance, 18 foot mark, enter. Now, reading the directions, select object to offset. Okay, I'm going to select that center line, select side to offset, I'll come out. I'm still in the trim command, the offset command, select object to offset. So now I'll select the other vertical line, side to offset. Now I'll come out this way. Okay, good. Now there are my ends of the football field. I no longer need these extra center lines, and my little pea brain is going to get baffled if it sees too many lines in here. So right now I'm going to E for erase and just erase those two center lines so I don't get mixed up. Okay, what else? That football field is 160 feet wide, which means it's 80 feet on either side of the center line. So I will now do O for offset, or I could pick that thingy. O for offset, and I'm going to specify offset distance, 80 foot mark. Okay, select object to offset, side to offset, I'll go up. Select object to offset, select the center again, side to offset, go down. All right, now I'm going to clean up my football field with a TR for trim command. And I want to select my cutting edges, if it was not already defaulting to that, because I don't want to use every blasted line in my drawing for a cutter. I want that line, the two ends and the two edges. Enter. And now, with those as my cutters, I can clean up the edges of my football field fairly easily. And I think I don't need this center line anymore, so I'm going to get that out of there. Okay, now what? Now let's look for the 10-yard lines. 10 yards is 30 feet, so this dimension says these are 30 feet apart. That makes them 10-yard lines. So let's go O for offset. Specify offset distance, 30 foot mark. Enter. Now, I could come up here and use the rectangular array, and if I were smarter, I probably would do that. But to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of afraid of this command because I'm always messing up. It confuses me. So I'm going to use the copy command. I'm going to use the offset and then the copy. Watch this. So offset, I've entered 30 feet. Select object. Select side to offset. I'm still in the offset command. Select line. Select side to offset. Now I could keep offsetting one step at a time, but I'm going to save myself a little time with the copy command. There's the icon, or I could type CO for copy. And I'm going to select those two lines. Did you see I used a right crossing window? Enter. I didn't select the end line, just those two. And now it says specify base point. Be mindful of what you use as a base point. If I use one of these lines as its own base point, I'm going to have lines over the top of lines. So I'm going to select this far corner as the base point, so that now when I make a copy, see what I've got? I've got a base point at the far corner with these two lines hooked to it. So now I can go click, 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 click. Uh-oh, looks like if I click again, I'm going to have duplicate lines. So I think what I will do is just enter here, and I'll go back to O for offset. And the 30 feet is already stored in the memory because that's the last thing I was doing. So I can just hit enter to accept that one. Specify object to offset. Specify side to offset. And there we are. We've got ourselves a track and a football field.